It is October 1941, what the Germans call Operation Typhoon just entered its third week. The final push to capture Moscow proves very hard for the Wehrmacht. Now that the Rasputitsa is frozen solid, the offensive may be moving quicker, but it's also getting very cold and the Germans are not equipped for winter. That doesn't change the fact that they are still in a hurry to get to Moscow. To get there, it is essential to capture the towns along the Moscow Highway. This road, one of the few paved roads that lead to Moscow, is absolutely essential to bring forward the reserves and supplies that will be needed for the Germans to capture the Russian capital. In an attempt to trap the 32nd Army, which is defending Vyazma, a two-pronged attack is staged to take the last major town on the highway before Moscow. This mission is part of the North Pincer, which moves forward to cross the Dnieper River at Glushkovo. This small village will prove a big test. The attackers will need to be very cautious and very quick at the same time. It will be paramount to secure this river crossing as quickly as possible. January 1942. The Soviet counterattack that started about a month ago has shocked the Germans. Fresh Soviet troops, well trained and equipped for winter, have been brought to Moscow and have attacked over a wide front. The Germans have had to give up most of their forward positions, and some units are in danger of being surrounded. Konevsk-Kalinin front threatens to cut off Model's 9th Army and Hübner's 4th Panzer Army. A quick repositioning is needed for a chance to extract German troops and close the front again. They fall back while defending attacks from all sides. When they finally reach a defendable position, they realize they are back to square one. The Dnieper crossings they so confidently took in October are now at the center of attention once again. In this mission, you will have to defend your local HQ against the Red Army. They will attack your position from multiple directions. Use the old Soviet positions to your advantage. If needed, you can call in air support from ZG-26, the only ground attack unit left in this sector. In the summer of 1942, the main German offensive aims to take the oil fields at Maikop, Grozny, and Baku. It is quite obvious from the start that any offensive in the general direction of the oil fields requires that the entire region north of the Caucasus mountain range be secured by the Germans. When the offensive arrives at this mountain range, specialist troops are deployed to drive the Soviet forces back as far as possible, thereby establishing the Caucasus as a shield for the south flank of the offensive. It is during this offensive that Mount Elbrus falls into German hands. On the mountain, a hotel called Shelter of the 11 becomes home to the Gebirgsjäger. On the 28th of September, this place becomes the backdrop for one of the most unusual battles of the war, which takes place at more than 4,000 meters above sea level. The Soviets have formed a special NKVD detachment, 100 strong, to recapture the refuge of the 11. They are led by Lieutenant Grigorians and armed with machine guns, mortars, and sniper rifles. The battle that follows is a very bloody one. In this mission, you are tasked with the attack on the shelter. You should expect that the Soviet defenders use the natural terrain to their advantage. If you succeed, you will have to prepare your own defenses. You should not expect to have the mountain to yourself. February 1943. The siege of Leningrad has now lasted a staggering 520 days. A corridor on the south shore of Lake Ladoga is now open to supply the starving city. But because the corridor is only a few kilometers wide and under constant attack, the siege has not been fully lifted yet. Georgy Zhukov therefore decides to attempt a double encirclement of the German units around Leningrad. If successful, The operation will see the German 18th Army encircled. Operation Polar Star starts on February 10th. One of its goals is to take Tosno. The main attack is centered on the highway and railroad that lead there, right through Krasny Bor. This village, southeast of Leningrad, will take center stage in this mission. The initial attack is met by the Spanish Blue Division, who have dug in a handful of AT guns and a few artillery pieces around the village. In this mission, you will be defending a number of strategic points against attacks from the Soviets. Tell your troops to expect attacks from all sides. Improvise if you have to. You cannot afford to lose your headquarters. In 1943, the German army was not strong enough to advance the way it had done in 1941 and 42. Instead, a decision was made to shorten the front line while trapping a large Soviet force near Kursk. The intention was to do this the usual way, with a pincer movement. Both pincers were aimed roughly at the town of Tin, east of Kursk. Unknown to German high command, the Soviets knew about this operation in detail. Intending to surprise the Soviets, Hitler insisted that the attack be postponed until the new weapons that had been developed would be available. This gave the Soviets time to build very strong and layered defensive lines. When the attack began, these proved to be rather effective. There were minefields everywhere and German progress was slow. Meanwhile, both air forces struggled for air superiority. Both used new aircraft, expectations were high, and tank busters flew low. In what was to become one of the most epic battles of the war, the outcome was not decided by new equipment, but by well-prepared defenses and sheer weight of numbers on the Soviet side. In this mission, you were ordered to attack in the direction of Petrovka. While you're at it, a diversion changes your task completely. November 1943. The German army faces the consequences of the Kursk battle in full. 1 month after the end of the Kursk battles, in August, the Germans have decided to change strategy. They want to stabilize the Eastern Front by adopting a defensive stance. For this purpose, a fortified line must be constructed along the steep banks of the Dnieper River. It is dubbed the Panther-Wotan Line, and it stretches from the northern Baltic coast to the Sea of Azov at Melitopol. The Soviet advance, however, already reaches the Dnieper in September, and the Wotan's Stellung is far from finished when the attack begins. Stalin will award the Hero of the Soviet Union to the first soldier to get across the river. As a result, the first to get across are on the West Bank already in September. But the struggle to eliminate the German positions lasts well into 1944. The northern part, the Panther Line, partially lasts into 1945. In this mission, you are defending your position west of Gomel against outbreaks from bridgeheads to your north and south. You'll have to stay very calm while facing overwhelming numbers.